Here's the thing I've learned: your feelings are not facts. Your numbers tell the real story. And so today, one of the things I wanted to talk about on the podcast today really has to do with tracking your numbers like a professional. I'll never forget when many of you know the story. I used to have this mentor, dear friend of mine. His name was Ron Lemon, passed away I don't know, several years ago. But for the first 10 years of my career, I will never forget every other week we'd grab lunch, and he just was a gentle mentor, and he'd grab me by the cheeks, and it was always the funniest thing. He'd say, Steve, you can't manage what you don't measure. And I know it said, at the time I was like, oh, what, the details elude me. I hate going back in and tracking it. I'd rather just be banging out phone calls, doing the work. But what he was trying to instill and what he really taught me in the first 10 years was, if you're not tracking the activity, then that's where you're being a feelings based business. And in each one of you, you're an entrepreneur. You've got your business, which is your originating business and team. And if you're not tracking the numbers, then it's, hey, I feel like it's been a great week. I feel like I had a great day. Wow, this week was busy. But there's six key things that I want you to start tracking. We talk a lot about this inside of the 8-week boot camp that I do. If you want to know more about it, go to freedomplanningcall.com. Chris and the team will tell you more about it. But in week number 2, one of the things to creating a predictable income is when you do the right activity consistently over time. That's what predicts your income. If you tell me and show me your tracked activity 90 days ago, I'll tell you what you're closing this month. Because, see, what we thought was predictable income, like if you're in the financial planning sector. I have a buddy of mine who we met when we were just both getting started. And it was like, you know what? If I can manage $100 million in assets, I'll make $1 million in trails. And so that's a predictable income. Well, in the mortgage space, that's been my mission in my career: is how do you take something unpredictable when a buyer or a client buys every 3, 5, 7 years and make it predictable, even with what seems like random purchases? And here's what we've uncovered is that it's not the buyers that create the predictability. It's the activity of the team that's originating the loans. And so, one of the things I really want you to hyper focus on right now is not only doing the activity, that's half the work, but unless you're tracking the activity, you don't know if you're doing enough of what needs to be done to close the amount of loans you're wanting to close. And so, yeah, for me personally, I remember what would happen is it was these high highs, these low lows. You'd run through it. We're the last week in May when everybody's graduating and leads are low, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my business? It's crashing. Not realizing it's seasonal, and um, you know, I can't dictate the ebbs and flows of natural life. Kids going into school, going into college, the end of summer, the start of the school year, running through Thanksgiving and Christmas. But what I can manage and what I can measure is how much activity am I having every week. And so here's what I would tell you I want you to measure. And if you measure these things, these 6 things, it will tell you whether you did enough. I used to have this sign underneath my light socket, and it said, I did my best, and my best was good enough. Well, how do you know if you did your best? How do you know if you did enough? And so many times I see people focusing on busyness, but not the right result driven activity that actually produces closed loans. And so, number one, here's what I would measure: how many 2-hour sessions of outbound prospecting are you doing a week? And for members, a part of the mortgage marketing animals, we have something really cool called Call Stars, and that's where hundreds of loan officers will jump on at 9:30 to 11:30 East Coast, or 9 to 11 East Coast, West Coast, and it's just a live Zoom call. Everybody mutes their Zoom and just starts being accountable to making your 2 hours of outbound calls. And whether you're doing a Call Stars or whether you're doing it on your own, you need to be prospecting 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, making outbound proactive calls. So I call that: how many prospecting sessions did you have? Did I have one? Did I have two? Did I have three? And if I were to ask you right now, look back this last week: how many 2-hour blocks of outbound proactive prospecting, not answering your phone, not checking your email, not sending a text, but proactive outbound prospecting sessions did you have? Most people would say zero. Well, that's something we got to fix. Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. I'd also love to hear from you. Make sure to drop a comment below and let me know what you think, or what it is you want to see next. And we'll see you on the inside. See you. Here's the second thing that, and we can help you with it. If you're not a member, go to freedomplanningcall.com, or if you want to know more about the boot camp, we'll teach you. So go there. But here's number two. Outbound calls. You got to measure how many outbound calls you're making a week. I was coaching a loan officer here recently, and he said, "Man, I've got to close 5 loans a month, and I got to do it really fast." And I said, "Awesome. Let's start with how many 2-hour sessions of prospecting are you doing?" He said, "0." I said, "All right. Well, how many outbound calls did you make this last week?" And it was something like 12. And one of the things here, and I'll just tell them to you, how many 2-hour sessions of prospecting did you do? We call that call stars. So did I do 1 this week, 2 this week, 3 or 4? Next one is outbound calls. How many proactive outbound calls did I make? How many talk tos did I have? Or as far as conversations. So how many outbound calls? How many talk tos? And then here's the other one. Out of my talk tos, how many times did I ask for the business? So I had a conversation. Did I ask for the business? Number 5 is how many leads did I get this week? And number 6 is how many contracts came in. And if you measure those 6 things, I'm going to break it down for you. It'll be the North Star. It's the dashboard that says, man, I did enough. Okay, so like with this loan officer, I said, how many outbound calls you make? It was something like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. And it just wasn't many. And I said, well, and let's call the number 10 outbound prospecting calls. Do you think you did enough activity to be able to get the number of loans you're trying to get to? And the answer is no. So it becomes a truth serum. And then let's say you talk to 10 people. Here's the next thing we've uncovered this last 12 months of really dialing in the numbers. A conversation without an ask for the business is busy work. And what we have measured is that if you have a conversation and just say, hey, think of me whenever you have your next deal, it converts significantly less than when you say, hey, Sally Realtor, let me ask you this. Who do you have today that I could help you get pre-approved to make sure it's a good use of your time? That one change in how we ask for the business has a multiplied effect on the relational referrals. So it's not enough to say, hey, I had 50 outbound calls, I had 22 conversations, but did those conversations actually have a strategic ask for the business? I'm thinking of my buddy Jared. When he got into the boot camp, this was one of the things he's like, man, the number one thing I want to do is learn how to ask for the business every phone call conversation that I have. And he went for something like, I don't know, 15, 20% of the time to over 90% of the time he asked. And the last week of the boot camp, he had put 7 loans that were locked and disclosed in his pipeline. And he said, the number one reason I attribute to this success is I've learned to ask for the business on every phone call, every time, whether it's a realtor, whether it's a buyer, whether it's an agent, whether it's a title rep or an insurance rep, understanding what the desired result is and learning how to ask for the business. And guess what? If you do that each and every day, you're going to get leads. Well, here's what will happen is maybe the first week your lead count isn't growing because of it, but you're going to watch over the next week it's going to grow, and the next week it's going to grow because you'll get better at conversations, better at asking for the business. And then the last thing is measuring the contracts that come in. And of course, every 30 days, how many of those contracts closed. But the 6 things I want you measuring right now is how many 2-hour prospecting sessions am I having a week? How many outbound calls? How many conversations? How many times am I asking for the business with those conversations? How many leads came in and how many contracts came in because of that? Remember this, 13 conversations a day plus 13 asks for the business. We know mathematically it'll give you 2 relational referrals a day. If you did it 5 days a week, that's 10 a week. $40 a month, which is 8 to 10 fundings a month. And we talk about it a lot in the boot camp and in our coaching. So if we can help you, go to freedomplanningcall.com. I really wanted to jump on today and just hyper focus on the importance of tracking it like a pro. You're doing the work, but if you don't know if you're doing enough work or there's emotion to it, tracking is the solution to what you're doing right now. Hey, and with that, remember this: track now, get started. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See ya.